How's your hammer, everybody? I'm PT Devil, and today we're going to be doing another discussion video, where this time we're going to be talking about what my predictions are for the next Smash Bros. Game coming from the Nintendo Switch. Now, I know this is kind of coming out of left field for a lot of you, because I've never really said anything about Smash before on this channel, but hear me out. Super Smash Bros. Has always been my favorite game, really, because it kind of brings so many of my favorite series together, so just bear with me as I kind of want to talk about these things. And who knows, maybe this video will attract a lot more attention from the Smash community, just as like a certain other random video on my channel attracted a lot of other people for no discernible reason. Like, seriously, people? This isn't even really me. This is just some cheap gameplay footage I slapped together just so I'd have a video. Like, what are you trying to say? There's so many better videos on my channel, like this one, or this one, or this one. Okay, maybe not that one. But anyway, I kind of want to go through these as quick as possible, so we'll just be looking at my predictions based on the different series or universes in the game, rather than going character by character. Now, do I honestly expect all of these to make it into the game? Jesus Christ, no, I got like 48 characters on this thing. But I figure if I go for quite a lot of them, I might actually get some of these right, and I had to logic my way through these, see who would actually have a chance at becoming a fighter in here. And I'll also be looking at other things besides just new characters, so there's that to look at as well. Also, I know there's a lot of evidence on the channel to the contrary, but no, I will not be pushing for Goku to become a fighter in Smash. I mean, I do have some dignity left. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Now, to start this off, I kind of want to talk about Mario. No, really, I want to talk about the character Mario, not just the universe. And by which I mean, I think it's about time that Mario got an update to his moveset. You know, it's been several years. I think it's time we get him some new moves. Namely, I want to see him using the cap throw from Super Mario Odyssey. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to come with this. Namely his ability to capture other characters. Now, I'm figuring you could use this ability to be able to capture or assist trophies or Pokemon, or maybe even some stage hazards. But don't let him capture other players, because that'd just be too broken. Also, I'm gonna laugh if you find out that by capturing it, Goldeen is actually the strongest entity in all of Super Smash Bros. Fuck yeah, Goldeen, that's my girl, you go get him! Also, I think it's about time that Mario got a final Smash that's more fitting to his character. Maybe he captures the big T-Rex from Super Mario Odyssey and rampages about, and that seems like it'd be a more fitting move. However, if Nintendo really wants to keep Mario the same way he has been for God knows how long at this point, I propose the following. Instead of giving all the Super Mario Odyssey moves to Mario, I say we introduce a new character who could be able to portray those moves just as easily. And I'm thinking Pauline. Now, Pauline kind of came back into relevance with Super Mario Odyssey, which I think is kind of interesting, since we've never really seen her outside of the Mario and Donkey Kong series. But given her prominence in that game, I'm pretty sure she'd be able to pull off a fighter role in Super Smash Bros. Very easily. You know, if you don't want to give Cappy to Mario, you can just give her to Pauline, because reasons, I guess. And that way you can still have all the super fun stuff from Super Mario Odyssey without actually having to rework Mario. Of course, that's also going on the fact that we don't end up reworking Mario at all. In which case, we'd still need another Mario representative, because, let's face it, it's their main IP. There's going to be a new Mario representative. So I'm thinking Captain Toad would fit that role. Now, Captain Toad would be kind of interesting, because we've had playable Toads before, but we've never really had one as recognizable as the Captain. Now that we have a definitive lock-on, yes, that's the Toad we're thinking of, it'd probably be best as for him to finally be able to be included in the game. Also, I know that Captain Toad can't jump in his games, but this is Smash. He's kind of got to be able to jump at least somewhat, so just let's make it so that he can't jump for shit. but he can jump at least a little bit. Of course, no list of possible Mario characters would be complete without addressing the big man of memes himself, Waluigi. Now, Waluigi is actually going to be an interesting topic because, as I see it right now, there is no way that Waluigi can make it in as a playable character. Hang on, let me explain myself, you vultures. It's not that I don't think Waluigi would make a good character in Smash, it's just that if you include him, there's one big glaring issue you have to deal with, and that is, where would you put him? Logic would dictate you put him with Wario, but there's just one slight problem with that. Waluigi has never actually appeared in any Wario games. He's only really appeared in Mario spin-offs, so it doesn't make sense to put him with Wario, and it doesn't make sense to put him away from Wario either. So as to rectify this solution, I have an idea. Jumping around the list a little bit, let's talk about the Yoshi and Wario universes. Now these two are considered separate universes, even though their only characters have primarily appeared in Mario games, and the fact that they've offered little to nothing to the Smash Bros. Universe by being separate from Mario. You could make the same argument for Donkey Kong, but he has enough differences both in his own universe and in Smash Bros. That I'm willing to give him a pass. As for Yoshi and Wario, they haven't really expanded much on these universes to justify them being separate, other than just simply being able to use more logos. So I'd suggest that you merge these two back into the Mario universe, and that way you'd be able to include Waluigi without having any problems. But if you absolutely have to insist on these two being separate universes, then you have to expand on these by giving them something that the Mario universe doesn't really use. Particularly, I'm talking, they each need some new characters besides their flagship MC. For Yoshi, I think the only character that would work is Comic, because A, he is Yoshi's equivalent to Bowser, and B, the only other recurring character that would have any semblance of recognizability is baby fucking Mario. As for Wario, I know a lot of people have been pushing for Ashley to become the next playable character for Wario's universe, but I'm pretty sure that Mona fits the role of deuteragonist in the WarioWare games better than Ashley does, so she's probably first in line for the next X-Fighter slot from Wario. But hey, after Mona, it's pretty even as to who would be next in line, so just about any of the WarioWare characters can make it in after that. Even your own deepest, darkest dribble and spits fighter fantasies could possibly come true after that. Moving on, I know we kind of mentioned him in passing before, but it's time to talk about Donkey Kong, because I think it's about time DK got a new representative for his series. And for that slot, I think it's about time we got King K. Rool into the mix. He is one of the big main villain characters, which we definitely need more of in Smash. And he was a popular choice, especially in the Smash 4 ballots. A lot of people wanted him in, which is why Zachary eventually included him as a Mii costume, so he at least knows that people wanted him. Hell, even I voted for him, and I don't even play Donkey Kong Country. As for a moveset, he's got a lot of different moves. He moves from the other Donkey Kong Country games. He can throw his crown like a boomerang, and he can fire stuff out of that pistol. I think he's even got like a helicopter pack or something, which he could use for recovery. So yeah, there's a lot of variety in moveset. The problem is he's never really appeared in any of the recent Donkey Kong Country games, so there's the question of how relevant he is. So as a backup for a more relevant Donkey Kong character, I'm thinking Dixie Kong. Kong would make a good choice. He's been in every Donkey Kong Country game released thus far as I'm aware. So he's definitely got the staying power. The only problem I see with her is that there's probably going to be a lot of temptation into making her a Diddy Kong clone. which kind of leaves a lot more of the character to be desired, since there's a lot more to her character than just as being a female Diddy Kong. The concern earned for that is there nonetheless. Moving on to The Legend of Zelda, we've already seen Link is using his Breath of the Wild incarnation, which does seem like a good idea, but I've never actually played Breath of the Wild myself because it came out at a time where I had bigger things to worry about. But from what I've heard, Breath of the Wild has been vastly different from any Zelda game thus far, so we can probably assume that Link is going to be getting some sort of moveset overhaul to go with it. And if we're giving Link that same treatment, then it's probably likely that Zelda will be getting the same thing as well, which in my opinion has been long overdue, since those characters have pretty much consistently been bottom tier here ever since the days of Smash 64. So it'd be nice to possibly get at those two into a more viable position. Also, I'd kind of like to see Ganondorf get a bit of a move overhaul to kind of separate him from Captain Falcon, but I don't think there's much to be gained from him using his Breath of the Wild incarnation, because from what I've seen, Calamity Ganon isn't exactly viable as a Smash Bros. Fighter. I could be wrong. Once again, I've never actually played those games. Also, if we're going to be reworking Zelda's moveset, then I don't really see there's a possibility of her merging again with Sheik. Although I would say keep Sheik in the game as her separate character, but I don't really play either of them that much anyway, so I don't really have a dog in this race. Although while we're on the subject, please, Nintendo, for the love of God, keep Samus and Zero Suit separate. I don't want to have to go back to jumping through hoops just to play my main again, seriously. Anyway, since we've kind of had the same characters for Zelda since the days of Melee, I think it's about time we get some new Zelda representation as well. I've heard a lot of people saying they want the 4 champions from Breath of the Wild in as well, but I don't really see that as being possible. Well, from what I've seen, the 4 champions are kind of a package deal, since none of them really stand out above any of the others. I would say if I had to choose one, probably either Mipha or Rivali would be the most likely, just because they have a little more variety in them and just being another sword user. But really, I don't really see any of them over any of the others. Unless, of course, they're going to do some sort of weird Pokemon trainer thing to use them all, in which case, may God have mercy on their souls. Another character I've seen tossed about here and there was Impa, which I can kind of see, since she is kind of the only other quote-unquote constant in the Zelda universe, aside from Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. But in about 70% of her appearances, she's been an old woman, so that kind of takes a lot out of that consistency out the window. In the games where she's not an old woman, yeah, she is a kick-ass fighter, and I definitely would see her being a very powerful character. But the biggest game we have to go by in that instance is Hyrule Warriors, and if we're going to go for a Hyrule Warrior representative, I think I got a better idea. This may be a bit of a fanboy take, I don't know, but I kind of think Lana would make for a great fighter in Smash. She's quick, she's powerful, she uses magic instead of another sword. She's also got some variety in her weapons, and she could also use her Deku Spear for her special attacks, and maybe even summon one of the giant bosses with her Summoning Gate for a final smash. Plus, she is also the holder of the Triforce of Power after Ganondorf is defeated, so there's actually a lore-based reason for having her in the game. But moreover, I just want to see Lana used a little more often, because I think she is kind of cute and funny. And I think her overall character arc is kind of sad at the same time. Plus, she's a female character, and we definitely need more of that in Smash as well. Now, for this next character, might be a bit of a stretch, but if we're going to be updating Zelda's moveset, then that means she won't be using her Phantom Slash move anymore. That means it's freeing up room for another other representation from the Toon Legend of Zelda sub-franchise, I guess you would call it. I'm talking about including Toon Zelda as a character. Specifically, I'm talking about the Zelda from Spirit Tracks, as opposed to just making her a toonified version of Zelda's old moveset. Because let's face it, that old moveset kind of failed spectacularly. That way, you can make her a heavy character as opposed to a lighter character like Zelda normally is, and by having her possess different phantoms in order to use her attacks. She could charge up a flaming sword using the Torch Phantom's ability. He could warp to any spot on the map using the Warp Phantom's ability. Or she could even turn into a giant boulder and roll over enemies like a la the Wrecker Phantoms. She could also abandon her current Phantom as a means of avoiding attack, or possibly making it a counter-attack move. And as for a final smash, she could even use the Spirit Train to just ram into her opponent. I mean, how fun would that be to just throw a huge train at your enemies and just call it a day? Moving down the list, like a lot of players, I'm kind of put off by the fact that the Kirby universe, one of the quote-unquote Big Four of Nintendo, has received so little representation in the Smash Bros. Series that so many of the lower tiered IPs have long since passed it. So we definitely need more Kirby representation in this game. To start with, we should probably talk about the series' fourth MC behind Kirby, DDD, and Meta Knight, and that would be Bandana Waddle Dee. If there's any Kirby character that's going to make it in, it's going to be Bandana Dee, because he's essentially become a staple in the Kirby series ever since his reintroduction in Kirby Superstar Ultra. So you don't even have to work hard coming up with new moves for him, just kind of update what he's already got and fit it in for Super Smash Bros. Deal. Now, I would leave it there, but again, this is Kirby. He needs a lot more representation than just one character. So after going through the list of all the characters, I've decided to go with one more as a possible Kirby representation, Marx. Now, Marx is a recurring villain character in the series. And again, we definitely need more villains in this game. I can't stress that enough. So I think Inky would make for a decent fifth addition to the Kirby series. You know, I know DDD and Meta Knight technically qualify as villain characters as well, but come on, who even cares at this point? We need more bad guys. There needs to be a league of villains in this son of a bitch. And moving on to the last of the big four, the Pokemon universe actually introduced this as an interesting problem as far as predictions go. As it turns out, Smash isn't the only big ticket game that's coming out supposedly this year, because as it turns out, what could potentially be Generation 8 for Pokemon is also coming out on the Switch. So that leaves the potential for the next Pokemon representation to be a Gen 8 Pokemon as opposed to one we've already got. But since we so far know absolutely dick diddly about this supposed new generation, which flies in the face of the release history of every generation before it, I'm going to assume that the next Pokemon games will in fact be pushed back to next year, so we probably won't have to worry about that. I mean, if the next Pokemon games really were coming out this year, we would probably know about half of the Pokedex by this point. The only problem I see is that we've already got a lot of Pokemon representatives already, but really I don't think any of them are likely to get the cut. The only one that even seems likely to get access at this point is Jigglypuff, and even though his door of relevance has long since passed, ever since the first season of the anime cut it out, there's really no way that they're going to give the axe to any of the original 12, which is why Captain Falcon is still hanging around, even though he hasn't had a game in God knows how long. But yeah, even though Jigglypuff's relevance is long since gone, he's still gonna be hanging around somehow. Pokemon Conquest almost helped this thing come back to relevance, but given the fact that they haven't done anything with that game by now, even though it's been, 10 years? I don't really see them bringing it back now. Also, I still haven't forgiven Nintendo for using this game as a lame excuse for not making Tokyo Mirage Sessions a Pokemon Fire Emblem crossover. Yeah, way to ruin my perfect game, Nintendo. It's not like Nobunaga's ambition and Fire Emblem are so exactly the same that you couldn't still do that. So let's take a look at what other Pokemon could possibly be making it in as a fighter instead. Namely, we're going to be looking at the current Pokemon generation, Gen 7, and the most likely Pokemon I can see out of that list would have to be one of the other starters. Namely, I'm talking about Decidueye. Decidueye has already made it in as a fighter in Pokken Tournament DX, so the logical progression from that would be to make him a fighter in Smash as well. Plus, having Decidueye would complete the usual whole grass, fire, water starter triangle that's present in all the Pokemon games. His moveset, it would be comprised mostly of moves from Pokken Tournament DX, perhaps even using his signature or finishing move from that game as a final smash, if not using his Z move from the main series Pokemon game Sinister Arrow Raid. I do recognize Decidueye as being the most likely, but is he a guaranteed fit? Jesus Christ, no! In fact, I can think of about 800 more that could make that slot instead. As for some backups to Decidueye, I know a lot of people are pushing for Incineroar, but since we already got Charizard, I highly doubt that that's going to happen. So instead, I'm thinking Lycanroc would probably make for the best backup plan. He's a rock type, and he's been gaining a lot of popularity lately ever since the anime had Ash's Rockruff evolve into a Lycanroc. Not that I've actually actively watched the anime ever since the Sinnoh arc, because I've had more important things on my mind at the time. As for a backup, I'm kind of stretching a bit, but I'm gonna have to say Marshadow would probably make for the third choice. He's starring in the next Pokemon movie, and we don't really have any ghost types in the game, barring Decidueye. But also because I think we need a little more legendary representation. Because while Mewtwo is cool and all, a lot of these newer generation players hardly even know who he is. That being said, Mewtwo is still the best villain character for the Pokemon universe, so please don't cut him again. Moving down the list, we gotta talk about the Metroid universe now, and I feel like I have to start this off by addressing the big, bad, ugly, winged space pirate elephant in the room. And that is whether or not Ridley deserves a spot as a character. If you've been living under a rock these past years, there's basically two types of people. Those who are demanding Ridley, saying he deserves a spot on the roster, and those who think he is far too big to actually be a viable, playable character. Well, spoiler alert, I'm kind of in the latter faction. I know a lot of people will be saying, oh, but you can just shrink him down to make him a little more viable. I mean, look at Bowser, look at Olimar, or look at Kirby. Yeah. Listen, Bowser's size has never been a consistent factor even in the Mario games. And while yes, I am aware Kirby is only 8 inches tall and Olimar is the size of a quarter, the fact of the matter is they scale everything else in their universes up the same amount in order to match, so it still comes out even, which is why you don't see Olimar throwing around Pikmin that are the size of sunflower seeds at his opponents. But I'm not happy about this. I do have to agree with the other side in that I really can't see any other character that deserves that spot as much as Ridley. I gotta feel bad for Samus, because everyone she has ever known and loved has all been killed almost right away. Her parents, her commanding officer, her baby Metroid. The only real consistent factor in all of our games is her arch rival, which she has been trying to kill ever since the beginning. Even the fact that she can't kill him is enough to give her PTSD by seeing how much he's willing to go through just to make sure he's still around to haunt her. So as for making the fighter roster, I'd say that Ridley is just too big to actually make it as a playable character. Or is he? You see, if Hyrule Warriors taught me anything, it's the fact that at running through a bunch of enemies while playing a giant boss character is a lot of fun. You know, even if it turns out that giant boss character is just a giant 3-story chicken. So instead of making him a fighter on the main roster, I propose this compromise. Keep him off of the list of main characters, and instead create a separate mode with a separate roster where you can control giant boss characters and just mow your way through a bunch of smaller enemies. That would also open the doorway for a lot of other giant characters that couldn't make it in anyway, such as PD Piranha, Beast Ganon, Dynablade, Necrozma, Arwing Walker, Hades, Green possibilities out the ass with this kind of game mode. Hell, this would even allow for the official playable debut of Master Hand to occur, and people have been asking for a playable Master Hand ever since the days of Smash 64, for God's sake. Do it, Zachary. Give us the hand. The people wanted, Nintendo. As for the main roster, since we still need a new Metroid character, I would have to say we upgrade Dark Samus from Assist Trophy to Fighter. Especially since we got Metroid Prime 4 coming out soon, the door of relevance is really being opened for Dark Samus to come back. The only problem I see with Dark Samus is same thing I said about Dixie Kong also applies here. There's still a clear and present danger of Dark Samus just being another clone of Samus, which again is a great disservice, but given how similar the characters look, you can't ignore there's a possibility that's going to happen. Of course, if you want to avoid it, then I'd say maybe one of the other bounty hunters from the Metroid Prime series could possibly make it. I think there was one of them that ended up being kind of a major villain. What was the name again? Cyrus? Fuck it. But yeah, either Dark Samus or that guy. Next on the list, we have the Star Fox universe, and I'm just gonna go ahead and open with we need to get Wolf back in there. I know he's kind of a clone of the other two, but he was far less of a clone than Falco was to Fox, and yet we've kept him in Smash 4. Plus, I know I've been saying this all along. We need more villains. We got a new villain in Smash 4, only at the cost of another. So we still ended up breaking even on that. So yeah, bring Wolf back, and we also need a new character, but I'm pretty sure you all know where I'm going with this. I'm talking about getting the big green man himself, Slippy Toad, because Slippy is obviously the best character for Smash. He's another member of the Star Fox team, so you don't have you can just give him the same moves again. Okay, no, I'm kidding. No, the real character I'm talking about is Crystal. Now, Crystal is actually interesting because in addition to being another Star Fox character, she actually has a number of abilities that are unique to her that could easily translate in Smash Bros. In addition to having the usual Star Fox gear and stuff, he also has psychic powers. If I'm correct. For example, using her telepathic powers in order to predict her opponent's moves in order to counterattack, kind of like Shulk does. In addition, before she even joined the Star Fox team, she appeared to be some sort of huntress in a very Avatar-like scenario, so there's a chance you could even use some of her moves from her time then, or to make a move set. My point is, we need more females in the game. Bring Crystal in. Now, next up on the list is the Fire Emblem universe, and before you immediately dislike the video, please hear me out. Yes, I'm aware that there are a lot of Fire Emblem characters in the game already, but there is actually a significant reason for that. And that reason is that Fire Emblem is essentially Pokemon for human characters. And by that I mean that every game in this Fire Emblem series has introduced a new set of characters with a new world and a new storyline every single time. If you don't believe me, allow me to put this in perspective for you. The main poster boy of the series, Marth, hasn't actually starred in a Fire Emblem game since 2010. That was only because that was a remake of a game that had debuted in 1994. Process that for a moment. Just let that sink in. Marth hasn't had a major role in a video game since before the times of Banjo and Kazooie. You want to know what the funny part is? Throughout all those characters and all those games, all those characters are interesting. You know, that baffles me as a writer. You know, how do they do that? How do they make so many memorable characters when you're basically starting from scratch with every game? Nintendo, I don't know how much you're paying those guys to write the Fire Emblem games, but whatever it is, it's not enough. But anyway, with so many deserving characters on the slot, how do you make room for them all? Well, I have an idea. You guys remember items? You know, those things that you turn off at the start of the match if you want to live longer, both in the game and in real life. If I see that goddamn bomb blowing up in my face one more time... You know, there's kind of a reason why I went for the Pokemon analogy for describing Fire Emblems, so going off that line of thought, why not make a Pokeball item for Fire Emblem? You know, we've already got something like that in Fire Emblem Heroes, and that'd be the weapon that the player character uses, the Breda, fuck it! My point is, this handy piece of weaponry, which must look insanely out of place for a game about swords and magic, has the power to actually fire heroes out of it. So I suggest we include this as an item in Smash, kind of like the Pokeball. Instead of being a direct Pokeball clone, we make it actually work, or kind of like a gun. Give it 4 shots that randomly shoot a different hero out to perform a single attack before disappearing. That way you can use a little more variety in the weapon, as well as potentially getting a lot of different heroes in there. Because this way we can have any of them. Still, that being said, even with the Breda Blick, there's no way to avoid new characters coming in. So the question now is who's it gonna be? Now, if I had to take a guess, I would probably have to say Lyn would be the most likely. She's already been an assist trophy ever since the idea was created back in Brawl. And given the fact that Nintendo themselves were surprised at how well she did in the Choose Your Heroes event in Fire Emblem Heroes, they've been going out of their way to try and include her more and more, even going as far as to include her in the roster of Fire Emblem Warriors, even though they were already scared to death of putting too many sword users in the game because they're aware of this stuff. And that was also why cowardice took the precedence over logical game design. But as for being a fighter in Smash, Lyn actually has a lot more potential than just being a popular female character. Yes, she does use a sword, but her Blade Lord class also has access to bows. And while she didn't have a signature bow in her games, she does in Fire Emblem Heroes. So you don't even have to look a card to give her a specific bow or settle for a generic one. In addition, she's also got very fast attacks. She's a quick moving character, and she even does this quick double team, even clone jujitsu kind of deal when attacking her enemies and warriors. So yeah, Lyn definitely has a lot of potential for finally making the cut as a playable character. But we can't exactly stop there because there's a lot more characters we gotta look at that could easily make the cut as well. Yes, I'm aware I'm kind of biased in this regard, as Fire Emblem is my favorite game series, but I don't honestly expect all of these characters to make it. I'm just posing possibilities here, so don't give me any sass. As for who else I think would make it, well, I've already been harping on about how we need more villains and how we need more females, so how about a character who's both? And by which I mean the primary antagonist for Fire Emblem Heroes, Veronica. Now, Veronica is actually kind of interesting as far as villain characters go. She's been the main face of the entire game up until Book 2 came around and introduced a whole new story. And she actually managed to make the cut in the top 2 of the female portion of the second Choose Your Legends poll. Which I'm assuming is why A, we still don't have those new characters yet, and B, why they're also pushing hard to pump out all those new storyline chapters as quickly as possible. Anyway, beyond just being both a female and a villain character, she's also has some variety in her moveset. She's strictly a magic user, which is a refreshing change of pace for the roster. And she also has the power to control other heroes, which would lead to some variety in her moveset as well. The only problem being she's only really appeared in Fire Emblem Heroes, and I'm not 100% sure that Nintendo is willing to give this much representation to a mobile game. But this wouldn't be the first time that Fire Emblem Heroes has directly influenced a main series game. Another character I think has a possible chance of making it in would have to be Anna. Because in all the Fire Emblem games to date, Anna has pretty much been the only constant in all of them. You know, aside from swords and other weapons like that. It could probably be a joke character, since her inclusion in all of them is basically a joke at this point anyway. But she also has some variety, you know. She's used almost every weapon in those games. Swords, lances, axes, his bows, staves. She even uses magic as referenced by the various DLC chapters in Awakening. And given her many appearances in the Fire Emblem series, she also has a lot of room for different palette swaps, you know, possibly taking her look from those various games as well. And of course it'd be pretty cool if for her final smash she just floods the field with her many different sisters in order to attack the enemy. I know I haven't talked about this before, but I know a lot of people are pushing for for some of the Fire Emblem characters we already got to be cut, but let's face it, Zachary doesn't really like giving characters the cut. If it does happen, as much as I hate to admit it, Lucina is probably first on the chopping block. The reason for that being that she is almost the exact same character as Marth, given that she was originally supposed to just be a palette swap. But really, at this point, there's no need for her to be a clone of Marth. I get the idea they were going for making her a palette swap, and that's why she has the same moveset now, but there's no reason for her to keep it now. You know, the only reason for her even being cloned in the first place is just for the sake of lore. Sound familiar? Well, yes, I do have to admit a hard, fast-hitting playstyle does fit Lucina's style. There's one slight thing that's always bothered me. In literally every game outside of Smash Bros. That Lucina has been in, she's been able to use Ether, so why doesn't she use it in Smash Bros? It's not like the move didn't already exist. Ike has been perfectly content using it this whole time. So if you really want to keep her as a clone, then why not just make her a split clone so as to give her some variety? You know, let her keep Marth's standard moves while using Ike's special moves. And while we're at it, why not just give her Marth's final smash so she can fight alongside her father, too? Because let's face it, that's all she really wants out of the deal, and I don't really think it's an alright to deny her that opportunity. Anyway, my point is we don't need to get rid of Lucina as much as we need to rework her, and maybe we need to allow her to use her new lance in some of her attacks instead of just being a direct clone of Marth. Also, I'd say maybe do the same thing for Roy, but I don't particularly care one way or another about Roy. You know, it's probable they'll rework his to separate him from Marth, because I don't see him getting axed again, given his performance in the Choose Your Legends event as well. But as it stands right now, I don't really care one way or another. Now, moving on to my second favorite video game series, and that would be the Kid Icarus series. Now, I know we haven't had a new Kid Icarus game since Uprising, but that's perfectly fine by me. Uprising introduced so much to the universe that we haven't even scratched the surface into including them in Smash. So while we're at it, I say, hey, we can still milk this cat out a little bit more to get some more representation out of it. Of course, that being said, I still want a new sequel to Kid Icarus Uprising, so could please somebody work on that? Thank you. Of course, there are a lot of people who are complaining about the Kid Icarus series too, given that the new characters we did get caused quite a bit of problems. A lot of people were complaining about Dark Pit being a clone of Pit that we didn't really need, even though that I've seen enough of a difference between the two that I don't really see there being that much of a problem with it. Because let's take a look at what Smash Bros. Got from the Kid Icarus game so far. We have both Pit and Dark Pit using their bows, but they also have an arm attack as well as using orbitars. In addition to that, Dark Pit also uses his titular staff as his final smash, and we even got the Ore Club as an item. Now that's 5 different types of weapons from the Kid Icarus series, which sounds like a lot, if it weren't for the fact that there's still 4 other weapon categories that were left unused. Blades, claws, cannons, and palms were left unused, even though you've already seen 2 different types of bows and 3 different types of arms being used. So if you're still complaining about Dark Pit being a clone, I would say rework his moveset in order to use some of these unused weapons categories. Let him keep the silver bow since that's kind of his signature weapon. Instead, you could also change a side special to use a cannon, which could fire an explosive projectile like it does in games. Possibly change his down special into perhaps using claws as a means of counter-attacking. Also, I get where you're going with Palutena exemplifying the customizable move feature, but since you guys failed so hard about that in the last game, there's no reason to have her starting moves essentially be her worst ones. Whether or not you keep the customizable moves in the next game, at the very least, don't make her default moves so crappy. Shuffle them around a bit so that we can actually get a little more use out of her in competitive play. Hey, since the default ones are the only ones we get to use typically. As for some new characters, I have a couple ideas. First of all, for a new character, how about we have Viridi in the game? She's a very popular character, especially since she ended up fulfilling most of Palutena's role in later parts of the game. But also, I think she can make it in as a possible pseudo-clone of Palutena. Let her keep a lot out of the standard moves for Palutena, whereas her special moves could be similarly swappable. But instead of using the different attacks from the competitive play portion, have her instead use various units from the forces of nature. For example, summoning a bumpity bomb to walk a few steps and explode, using a boom stomper to crash around the area nearby her, or using a Malva as a shield in order to reflect enemy attacks. There's a lot of variety you can go for with it in just the forces of nature. And she even has a very obvious final smash, being able to use the reset bomb as a powerful area attack. Now, does this make it a little more difficult for the reset bomb for a stage to reappear here in the next Smash Bros? Maybe, but let's be honest, who really cares? I don't think anybody particularly liked that stage anyway. In my opinion, there's a lot better stages in the game we could have drawn from. Of course, since this video is about options rather than finding the one specific prediction that quote-unquote will be added, I gotta come up with another character, so I'm thinking we upgrade one of the 2 assist trophies we have, either Phosphora or Magnus. I'm gonna have to give the edge to Phosphora in this case, given my preferences. But also because I think Phosphora would add a lot more variety to the roster than Magnus could. Don't get me wrong, I think Magnus is cool, and while I think swinging a big sword around is cool, and that sword would certainly give Clouds a run for his money, it's literally just that. Phosphora, on the other hand, has a lot of variety in the different electrical attacks she can use. Got quick lightning bolts, chaser orbs, stuff that hops along the ground. She's got a lot going on for her. But I think what would really set her apart is her movement style. We've got quote-unquote floaty characters with Peach and Kirby and, well, Jigglypuff. We've never really had a character that literally floats in the air. I think Phosphora would be the one to do that. Make her completely immune to gravity aside from knockback, and just give her complete free-roaming omnidirectional movement. I think that would make for a very fun character to play as, and might even inspire me to change up my main. I don't think it'd be too broken, because you could easily balance it by giving her some low power and attack range, as well as making her a super lightweight as well. I definitely think it'd be fun, and like I said, she's got more of a chance than Magnus does. At this point, I would probably say that we should probably get some F-Zero representation in there too. Like maybe making Samurai Goro playable, since he's an ex-cop like Falcon and basically his main rival. But let's be honest, who really cares at this point? Now moving on, we're probably going to be seeing another new retro character, since we've consistently had one ever since the days of Melee came around. First it was the Ice Climbers, then we got Pit, which led to his revival. Then we got Duck Hunt, which was weird, but we could still see it. Problem is, Duck Hunt was an indication that we're starting to run out of NES games that could be used as a retro character in Smash. You know, at this rate, whatever character I suggest is going to seem outlandish, but given the fact that we don't have a choice, even though there's probably going to be one anyway, we've got to come up with something. So I'm going to suggest Excite Bike. It'd probably be weird to have a character just riding a motorcycle all the time. I'm in a fighting game, but we've got Wario using his, so it's not like it's that far-fetched. As for a moveset, fuck it, I'm just going to let Nintendo figure this one out. You know, something like this is bound to happen. It's just a question of who, how, and what are they going to do? Or is it what, how, and who will they do? Or is it what, who, and how will they do? But anyway, while we're talking about retro characters, it should be worth noting that we'll probably see the Ice Climbers coming back. The only reason they were cut out from Smash 4 was because the DS couldn't handle the limitations of using two characters at the same time. And we've accepted that reason. We didn't like it, but we accepted it. But now there's really no excuse to leave them out a second time. Although speaking of controlling two characters at once, I think it's time to talk about the Xenoblade series. I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother knows where I'm going with this. I'm talking about including Rex and Pyra as playable characters in Smash 4. Now again, I have to admit I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles X again, because I had more important things to deal with. But throughout all the videos I watched doing research for this video, Rex and Pyra have basically been the single consistent factor in all of them. Clearly the people want them in there, so it's just a question of how they do it. From what I could tell, I think the best course of action would be to have them similar to the Ice Climbers, with the character controlling Rex and having Pyra staying close by. This way Rex could be the one doing the bulk of the fighting, whereas Pyra could be powering up his attacks. This could be exemplified by Rex's attacks being more powerful the closer he is to Pyra, which could possibly give some incentive for targeting Pyra over Rex. Also, I think perhaps using a down special in order to switch between Pyra and Mythra would work as well, because that would also be able to change some of Rex's attacks and allow for more interesting gameplay. I've heard some people disputing this as possibly being a spoiler to the game, but as we already know, Nintendo doesn't really seem to care about that when it comes to Smash. Moving on, by this point we've pretty much already confirmed that the Inklings are going to make it into this game, which I do think is long overdue, but again, I don't really care that much since I've never really played Splatoon. This time it's less of a factor of having too many things to do and more the fact that I wasn't all that interested in it in the first place. But anyway, I'm glad to see that they're in Smash, but I think there's another new IP that can be tapped into, and that would be ARMS. Once again, I've never played ARMS, which I'm just going to stop pointing out, because I've said it several times already. As for ARMS representation, I'm thinking either Springman and or Ribbon Girl as a playable character would work. From what I can tell, the characters do have some different properties to separate them, but for the most part, they're all still using the same moves, basically. It's just a matter of what kind of style they decide to put on it. I could be wrong, but again, and I don't know for sure. But anyway, as far as Smash goes, I'm pretty sure that whichever character you put in here would probably end up the same moveset. So I'm thinking Springman and or Ribbon Girl, since they're essentially the poster children for the game, would probably make the cut. probably being palette swaps of each other, kind of like the male and female Wii Fit trainer. Or hell, maybe they'll go the full mile and give them the whole Koopalings treatment and add every character in ARMS as a palette swap. For one last first-party character, I kind of want to see Label Man make an appearance, but I don't really know much about it out Nintendo Labo. I can't really say anything too profound about that one, so instead I'll just leave it at the flash animation that Javid'll stare at me as for a possibility of Labo Man making it as a fighter. Now, as for third-party characters, I have a few suggestions, but I'm not going to go too crazy about them. First of all, I think it's about time we got more Sonic representation in the game. I know a lot of people want to see Shadow as a playable character, but let's face it, there's no way that the second Sonic character is going to be anyone but Tails. Tails is basically Sonic's answer to Luigi. He's always going to be with Sonic, and that's just how it is. To be fair, Tails does have some variety to offer aside from being Sonic's player too. He does have his two tails to fight with, but he's also a very tech-savvy fox, so he does have access to a lot of different gadgets he could use to attack with as well. And hell, for a final smash, he can even call in the Tornado as a means to shoot down his opponents, so there's a lot of potential in there. As for some new third-party characters, I'm thinking maybe Crash Bandicoot would make for a good choice. With the announcement that Crash's Insane Trilogy is coming to Switch, there's a lot of potential for him to finally be able to make it. It was essentially Sony's answer to Mario, so it makes sense that their mascot would be able to make it Smash at long last. As for my personal pick for third-party characters, I'm gonna have to choose Banjo and Kazooie, mainly because I refuse to let this one die. Some of you may have known that I actually posted a prediction where I said Banjo and Kazooie might make it into Smash 4 after playing the original Banjo-Kazooie game late at night and thinking, these moves would translate pretty well into Smash. But of course that list didn't really go over too well, and quite possibly led to my attempted suicide later that year. But ever since then, and Microsoft has said that they would very much like to see Banjo and Kazooie make it into Smash Bros. So the chance is better now than ever, which makes sense because it's not like Microsoft has been doing much with them. As for some other suggestions, I think it's about time that we get an indie character into Smash. The question is who's it going to be? Well, I think I've narrowed it down to three possibilities. He's Shovel Knight, Shantae, and some character from Undertale. Is it Sans? I'm pretty sure it's Sans. These three have all had some good history with Nintendo. Shovel Knight even has his own amiibo. Shantae has been played on Nintendo consoles almost exclusively. And Undertale was recently revealed to be coming to Switch as well. As far as which of these is more likely to appear, I'd probably have to say Shovel Knight is the most likely, with Shantae close behind and Sans at a very distant third. Sorry, Sansy, maybe you shouldn't have come from such a toxic fandom. And that would be all the predictions I have. I know a lot of people said they want to see Geno in the next Smash Bros. Game, but let's be honest, what are they even doing with that character anyway? With all the third-party rights that Nintendo has to secure, I don't really see them going out of the way to include a character that hasn't been used since 1996. And he did have a Mii Fighter costume in the last game, which did surprise me, but I don't really see them going all that way to make him a new fighter. Seems like too much of a legal hassle to me. Oh, and speaking of Square Enix and legal hassles, I know a lot of people have been suggesting Sora from Kingdom Hearts should be included in Smash Bros, but I would like to propose the following instead. Don't. Yes, Cloud and Bayonetta did allow for a lot of characters never before thought possible to be included, but if anything, those characters have actually killed any chance Sora might have had of being included. By which I mean that while Square Enix does create the games, the franchise is actually owned by Disney. And if you honestly don't think that's a problem, then my friend, you need to go take a business or a marketing class. Because Disney is super concerned about keeping their family-friendly image, and the only way that Sora is going to be included is if half of the characters we've already talked about, as well as a good number of characters already on the list, would be immediately axed from the game, all for the sake of including one third-party character that probably didn't even need to be included in the first place. Don't do it. Don't ruin Smash just for one character. But anyway, those are basically my predictions of what could happen. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what your predictions would have been, and in the comments below. Also, feel free to check out some of the other videos on this channel instead of just this one, because they're legitimately funny and interesting. But anyway, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like this video, feel free to scream my name as you shake your fist angrily into the sky. But thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, don't get run over. I'll see you guys later. Yes, I know I have a very strong preference to Lucina. What of it?